Whoa, that was close. Ever since I was little, Dad and I have always been like two peas in a pod. We lived by the sea and swam together with the sea animals every day. But my mom, aka Miss Perfect, was never happy about anything. She loved complaining. Oh, and I forgot to mention, please like and subscribe to Storytime Animated.
Mom, meet my pet, Inky. Dad and I saved it from a shark.
What? Sea animals are not pets. They're dangerous. Your father knows better. We work with them every day. You're too paranoid. She loves the octopus and it's harmless. She can keep it.
My parents worked together as marine scientists at a multi-billion government research lab named Vaught's Lab. But they never saw eye to eye on things, especially with the sea animals they worked with. And she always liked picking a fight with Dad about money. Once Dad took us out to a fancy restaurant for my 15th birthday, Mom looked at the bill and threw such a tantrum, embarrassing both me and Dad.
Why would you bring us to a place that would cost us an arm and a leg? Calm down, darling. We can afford it. And plus, it's for our baby girl. Well, our lifestyle is getting a little too expensive, and one of us has to do something to make sure we don't lose everything.
I didn't know what Mom was talking about, but all I knew is that she just ruined my birthday. And then soon after, the next worst thing in my life happened. It happened during my school's talent show. I had been performing with Inky when cops suddenly stormed into the auditorium and headed straight for Dad and the crowd of parents.
Mr. Johnson, we're here to arrest you for fraud and illegal trade of sea animals from Vaught's Lab.
I couldn't believe my ears. I knew my dad. He loved animals. He'd never sell them. I ran down from the stage and grabbed the cop.
Let him go! My dad is innocent!
But they pushed me away like I was an insect and dragged Dad away. Everyone in the auditorium stared at us and I was so embarrassed. After that day, Dad's face was plastered all over the media. And in school, whispers started to fly around about my family. And one day, I overheard Elijah, a cop's son in my school, discussing my business in a crowd of people, and it drove me crazy.
Don't you have something better to do than gossip?
Like committing fraud?
I lost it and pounced on him, but after a few seconds, the principal showed up and dragged me away from Elijah into his office, where he dropped a bombshell.
You'll be expelled.
What? That's not fair!
I don't want to do this, but your father offended the government, and it puts this school in a bad spotlight. There's nothing I can really do.
Like an outcast, I was banished from the school grounds. The only way my family and I would be fine again is if my dad was proven innocent. So I decided to snoop around the lab where my parents worked. As soon as Mom found out what I was up to, she went crazy.
Give it up! Your dad is a criminal! Do you also want to follow in his footsteps?
I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth.
Dad is not a criminal, Mom. Someone's probably setting him up. We need to search the lab. Dad keeps everything from work in there.
There are harmful chemicals in there. I am not letting you in. And stay away from the investigation. If the cops find out what you're up to, they could arrest you for interfering, and you'll end up like your criminal father.
Jeez, it feels like you don't care that Dad is in jail.
Mom ignored me, and her actions just didn't make any sense. Why was she not concerned about Dad the way I was? Mom started acting strange. Like one day, I opened my cupboards and found all my swimsuits shredded into pieces.
Mom, what is the meaning of this?
I'm just protecting you. Who knows? Maybe you carry the same madness like your dad. The further you stay away from the sea, the better.
The next day, she installed security cameras all over the house to make sure I never went near the sea or the aquarium. Well, she missed a spot, the backyard.
Get back into the house right now!
Mom's punishment made me so sad that I confided in Inky one morning. Even though he was an animal, I felt he understood me more than people. Sometimes, I feel like Mom hates me. Inky pointed one of his tentacles to a poster of an event Dad wanted to take me to before his arrest.
STA invites you to their annual Marine Life Festival, where we can all be free like the fish. Inky, you're a genius! You're right, I can find people that know Dad at that event and ask them questions.
The next day, as soon as Mom left for work, I snuck out of the house in a disguise to the festival. As I walked around searching for familiar faces, I bumped into Elijah. And I hated to admit it, but he looked different, cuter. Not like it made any difference. He was the last familiar face I wanted to see.
Are you blind? Couldn't you see me coming?
Sorry, I got distracted taking pictures of dolphins.
Was he apologizing? That didn't sound like Elijah at all. Maybe it was because he couldn't recognize me. Either way, I felt like a huge jerk.
I'm sorry for yelling at you. Is that one of the pictures?
Yeah, just a couple of basic photos the organizers hired me to take.
Wow, he was a really good photographer.
They're perfect.
I could take one of you if you want.
Of course I do.
I posed next to the dolphins and Elijah took some great photos.
You are so photogenic. I feel like I've seen you before. What's your name?
I'm Kat. I have to go now.
Wait, Can I at least get your number?
I quickly wrote down a fake number and hurried off before he recognized me. When I got home, Mom was waiting for me in my room.
What are you doing in my room?
Did you really think I wouldn't notice your disguise at an event where my workplace was a sponsor?
Okay, maybe I should have done some browsing before sneaking out, but I had no idea Elijah was going to publish my photos.
I'm sorry. I just needed to clear my head. A lot has been weighing on me, and Inky is the only one here for me. You're never here.
And now, he'll no longer be, because of your silly act.
Mom suddenly grabbed Inky's aquarium, and I just couldn't watch her take the only friend I had away.
Mom, please, don't take Inky away! I'm doing this for your own good. Sea animals are dangerous.
Inky squirted some ink at Mom's face in defense.
See? Dangerous! Just like I told you!
He's not. He felt threatened by you.
If you enjoy him that much, I'll lock you two in here forever!
Like a lunatic, Mom grabbed my room keys and stomped outside, then turned around to lock my door.
Mom! Mom! Please unlock my door!
No matter how loud I screamed, Mom pretended not to hear me, and I went over to Inky to complain some more about her. But to my surprise, he attacked me too.
What are you doing? You're hurting me!
After nearly an hour of struggling, Inky released me with a small bite, and when I looked at my face in the mirror, I let out the loudest scream ever, then zoned out. The next time I woke up, I found myself in the hospital with Mom beside my bed.
What happened?
That octopus attacked you! I told you that sea animals were dangerous, but you never listened to me! I already took him out of your room.
Slowly, the events of that day poured into my brain.
No, Mom, you can't! It wasn't his fault!
Shh. Don't stress yourself. I'll bet you're hungry. I'll order some food and head straight to work. See you later.
An hour after Mom left, someone walked into my room, and I was shocked to find Elijah with a pizza box.
Ma'am, you ordered for pizza?
Oh my god, not him again! I pulled the blankets over my face and changed my voice.
Welcome, strange boy I don't know at all. Just drop the pizza on the table and go.
Thank you, Elijah. How do you know my name?
Oops.
Wait a minute.
Elijah suddenly walked up to me and pulled the blanket away from my face.
If it isn't the criminal's daughter.
If it isn't the dude who can't stick to one job, photographer, delivery man, what's the next thing?
That was you at the event? You must have had some fun tricking me, cat.
You bet I did, and you fell for it.
To my surprise, Elijah slumped beside me with a tired expression.
I guess I did. Deserve that for being a jerk, huh?
Yeah, you were a jerk at school, but I'm over that now.
I guess since I know about your dad, it's only fair I tell you about mine. He did some investment that didn't pay too well, and now he's broke. I have to work multiple jobs to help out.
I'm sorry about that. I wish there was something I could do to help.
It's fine. I'm sorry about your dad too. I don't really think he's a criminal. I was just being a jerk.
Elijah and I became cool, and when the hospital discharged me, he dropped me home, and to my surprise, Mom was quite welcoming. I guess my illness made her relax a little.
Why don't you come over for dinner someday? You can bring your parents too. Sure will, ma'am. Goodbye, Elizabeth.
After that day, Elijah and I hung out a few times around the beach, and I carefully followed Mom's instructions. I avoided the sea and never asked about Inky, so she wouldn't get upset with me again, which made her happy. But then, one midnight, I noticed something strange. I heard some noise and looked through the window, only to find Mom talking to some strange men beside a truck. It made me really curious, and I tiptoed outside to check what they were up to. And you'd never guess what I found at the back of the truck. Aquariums! Lots and lots of them.
Mom? What's going on?
Just some work stuff. Nothing serious. Go back to bed, honey.
But
Mom gently nudged me into the house, and I couldn't help but wonder why she was acting strange. My gut feeling told me that she was up to something. The next evening, when Elijah and his dad came over for dinner, Mom took a 360 turn.
Thank you for inviting us to dinner. It's good to see you're doing better after your husband's arrest. I know I'm a cop, but if you need a shoulder— Excuse me, you're a what?
Mom quickly rose from her seat and started to yell at Elijah's father like a maniac.
I don't want cops in my house! After what you did to my husband, you have so much guts! Leave this instant!
Jeez, what was wrong with her?
Mom, please.
Don't worry, we're leaving. You're right. It was rude of me to show up here.
As soon as Elijah and his dad left, Mom faced me.
Didn't I warn you to stay away from the investigation?
I didn't know his dad was a cop. And since when did you care about Dad's arrest so much that you don't want a cop around?
Why don't you stay out of adults' business? Go play with your dumb octopus or something.
You took him away, remember? I miss Dad so much. You're so mean.
I dashed up to my room and shut the door behind me. I had just about enough of Mom and her harshness towards me. As I was lying in my bed, lost in thought, I suddenly heard pebbles softly hitting my window. It was Elijah! Oh, I was so excited to see him! With my help, he climbed into my room and I hugged him.
I'm so sorry about my mom's outburst.
It's okay. I wanted to make sure you were all right.
I was tired of keeping everything to myself and decided to let it all out.
I'm not.
Mom is so difficult to live with, and she's been acting strange. I think she's up to something. Yeah, her outburst at the table today was unusual. What do you think we should do?
Investigate. I need to find out why she's suddenly acting this way. We'll start with that lab of hers.
I hid Elijah in my room for a few hours until I was certain Mom wouldn't be in the lab, at which point we snuck out and were met by Mom's security system.
Do you have any idea what it might be?
Yeah, I think I saw her type her password on her laptop once. Let me try anglefish.
And voila! It worked! Elijah and I went in and found so many animals and aquariums in the lab, including my pet octopus, Inky. I found some stash of papers near his aquarium and studied them.
Are those receipts and invoices?
Yes. I think my mom has been the one stealing sea animals from her workplace and selling them to people. And she was going to sell Inky as well. Poor Inky. No wonder he attacked me.
He could sense he was in danger when I couldn't even tell. Octopuses were really smart. I looked around and noticed that there was a lot of evidence against Mom, showing that she had framed Dad for her crimes.
Quick, take pictures of everything you find, Elijah. This is evidence that my dad is innocent.
Elijah started taking pictures, and I grabbed Inky's aquarium. As soon as he was done, we hurried to the door, but not fast enough because Mom walked in on us.
If it isn't my foolish daughter and her boyfriend, you two should have never come here.
Give it up, Mom. We know what you've been up to. That's why you freaked out when you found out Elijah's dad was a cop, huh?
I was doing everything in here for us, but your foolish father, like you, couldn't understand. You two think you're so clever, but I'm making a lot of money for our family. How do you think we managed to afford all this?
I didn't ask you to commit crimes to make money. I just wanted a mother, and you were a terrible one.
Shut up, you ungrateful child!
Mom blocked the doorway with her body.
You'll have to go through me!
Well, that was easy. I held onto Inky as I ran, head straight into Mom, pushing her to the ground.
Come on, Elijah, let's hurry!
You'll regret this!
As Elijah drove us to his, 3 dark cars suddenly showed up and started chasing us. Elijah surprised me with his driving skills and managed to lose them.
Where did you learn to drive like that?
My dad is a cop, remember? I learn a lot from him.
As soon as we reached Elijah's house, he reversed his bike and his dad immediately came out.
Dad, we need your help urgently. What's wrong?
My mom is after us. We found out she framed my dad for her crimes. We have all the evidence here.
Wow, that's a lot. Hold on, kids. I'll get my keys and drive you to the station.
I didn't hesitate to expose my mom because what she did was so wrong and didn't even care about Dad, who always treated her like a queen. The next day, the news about Mom's crimes spread like wildfire, and she was arrested by a team led by Elijah's dad right before she could escape. He got a huge raise for his involvement in the case.
I never got the chance to say thank you for helping me. You're an amazing person.
You're amazing too. I hope we never stop being friends.
When my dad was released from prison, I was over the moon.
Dad, I've missed you so much. You weren't around and Mom made my life hell.
I heard about that. I wish she had listened to me, but she got too greedy.
Well, it doesn't matter now. She's paying for her crimes.
Yeah, you're right. Let's go home.
I'd take spending time with the people I loved any day over wealth and theft.
Dad! Mom! Look at my design! Look! I dragged my parents to the living room.
Oh no! Oh my!
My mom screamed and fainted, but my dad caught her before she could hit her head on the floor. Dad, what's wrong with Mom?
Nothing much, honey. Her brain is just too tiny. It doesn't have the capacity to behold neither talent nor beauty. She's too small-minded, my darling. But you are talent itself, and I'm proud of you. Give Daddy a big hug.
He stretched forth his hands and I ran into them.
By the way, next time you want to create such an amazing drawing, do it in the art studio, okay? Never on the walls, so your mom doesn't faint again. Do you understand me, honey?
Understood.
Amazing. Let me take your mom to her room.
I'll go with you. As we walked up the stairs with my unconscious mom, I took one last glance at the massive, childlike drawing that now covered the entire living room wall, which used to be a clear white. I was an artist. That was so many years ago, but I remember it like it was just yesterday. Art has always been a passion of mine, and once my dad noticed that I had a thing for drawing and painting, he immediately had an art studio set up for me. While my dad loved everything I created, whether it was a dot or a brushstroke, my mom misunderstood and detested my creations. Not like I could look up to her anyway. My mom was what you'd call a trophy wife. She was beautiful, and that was it. My dad was an international businessman who dealt in different things. Art was one of them, and so he had an eye for it, enough to know that I was special. Like this video and subscribe to our channel immediately if you want to have any supportive person in your life. My dad took care of me as much as he could whenever he was around, but the thing is, he wasn't always around. He was always out on one business trip or the other, and although he called and texted frequently, I always felt his absence. My mom, on the other hand, was always around but never available, always out gisting with her girls or attending parties. I never felt like I had a mother growing up. Not a biological one, at least. I had a mother replacement, and she was Tima, my nanny.
What about Princeton?
Tima asked one hot afternoon in the art studio, cleaning up after me as I painted.
I haven't heard you talk about him a lot recently.
Princeton.
Yes?
Princeton is old news, okay? Don't ask me about him ever again. After setting up an art studio for me, my dad signed me up for art camp. He wanted me to improve my drawing and painting skills, so he started sending me to the camp every summer. Being an only child, it was difficult for me to make friends, so I was always lonely, until I met Princeton, the only son of the Michaelo family. The Reeds and the Michaelos had a good history, so when I told my dad that a guy called Princeton Michaelo had tried to talk to me during art camp, he encouraged me to befriend him.
Jennifer Reeds!
Princeton bellowed during our second summer camp.
Are you going to talk to me now? Or are you going to run away while clucking like a chicken, just like you did last time?
I laughed and walked out of my tent. Princeton and I became best friends and caused a lot of mischief during our various summer camps, until our last year of summer camp, when he disappeared. I did everything to reach out to him, but it proved impossible. Princeton was gone from my life just like that, in the blink of an eye. This broke me because I was a homeschooled kid. I had 0 friends. Zilch. Nada. Princeton was the only one who'd managed to break through the walls of my heart.
I'm sorry, Jennifer. I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I just wanted to know if you'd been able to get through to him or if he'd reached out.
I'm sorry, Tima. I didn't mean to raise my voice. I'm just still hurting. And no, I've stopped trying to reach out, and he's never even bothered to reach out to me, so he's old news.
Any new news?
We both laughed. No, not yet, thankfully. I loved Tima so much. She was the only real mother I'd ever known. It was a few weeks to my 18th birthday and my dad was about to travel again. Dad, you're traveling again? You promised to take me to your friend's gallery so he could see some of my pieces and feature them. And now you want to leave? No way.
Honey, come on, this is not the first time I'm traveling. I'll be back before your birthday and I'll fulfill my promise. So for now, just keep creating, okay? Create masterpieces so you'll blow my friend's brain right off.
He laughed. I don't know why, but something just feels off. Can you postpone your trip? Travel after my birthday, please?
Oh, honey, but this is an important trip. It'll determine our future. I'm sorry, but I have to go. I won't miss your birthday, I promise.
For the first time in 13 years, I wept as I watched my father leave. I didn't want him to travel. For some reason, I just felt this inexplicable sorrow as he closed the front door behind him. It was almost like I knew that he was never going to walk through those doors with his 2 legs ever again. Mrs. Reeds rolled her eyes and walked away. She thought I was pathetic, and I wondered how we could have ever been related. For the next few weeks, I threw myself into creating masterpieces, so my dad would show his friend when he returned. But whenever I picked up the paintbrush, my stomach started to turn. My heart started beating fast and I became scared. My body knew that something terrible was about to happen, but my brain refused to accept it. I ignored my worry and created the best drawings possible. My birthday came and I didn't bother with planning a party despite Mrs. Reeds trying to convince me to do that. All she cared about was luxury and partying. She'd take any excuse to invite her friends for a party, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. I didn't have friends to invite for a party, so what was the need? All I wanted was my dad. My beautiful, lovable, perfect dad. I dressed up and waited excitedly for my dad to return. All my canvases were arranged and packaged right beside me. It was morning when I started waiting, and I'd waited till evening, but heard nothing from my dad. He wasn't picking his calls anymore. What could have happened? I just spoke with him this morning, so he had to be fine, right? The doorbell finally rang and I happily ran towards the door, but the person waiting behind the door was neither my father nor his driver.
I'm sorry about this terrible news.
I knew what he was about to say before he said it. I'd suspected it all along, but it hurt even more when I discovered that it had happened just a few meters from our family house.
I don't know why they were driving so fast. I guess he was rushing home for some reason. I'm sorry, but they're both gone.
I caused it. My dad knew he was late, so he was rushing home to me. I caused it. I caused the accident. I packed all my drawings outside and immediately set them ablaze. If my art became the end of my father and his driver, then perhaps it'll become my end too. I couldn't let that happen. I had to end it first. My dad's burial was another opportunity for Mrs. Reeds to plan another frivolous party. I don't even think she cared much that her husband was dead. All she wanted was a perfect party. She didn't even bother consoling me as I mourned my father. She totally ignored my existence. Thankfully, Tima was around. Tima was always there for me. The burial came to an end and it was time for the reading of the will. My sweet father left substantial amounts for our domestic staff, and the rest was left to me. Unfortunately, I couldn't access it until I turned 21. Until then, my biological mother had control over everything and was directed to take care of me until I turned 21. And after that, I thought it was weird that my father had to spell out biological mother, but I simply ignored it. While leaving for college, Tima gifted me a journal.
I know you love drawing. I know that's how you express yourself. Don't stop. Whenever you have no other place to let it out, use this journal.
My college funds had already been paid for by my father, so I started school immediately while Mrs. Reeds jumped into spending her newly acquired money. My so-called mother never sent me any money to survive, despite the fact that I called her multiple times. And so, I had to start taking odd jobs around the school to be able to pay my bills. At school, the Reed surname attracted people to me, but they left immediately they found out that I didn't have access to the family money. Meanwhile, my mother was on the news daily for one crazy rich act or another. She knew my dad's company was sinking, but she didn't do anything about it, and she didn't care much either. Tima came to spend some time with me at school, and while cleaning up, she found the journal that she'd previously gotten for me. She saw my sketches and said that they were beautiful.
Start drawing again.
It wasn't easy, but I listened to the only woman who'd ever been a real mother to me. I started drawing again. Students around campus started paying me to do designs on their room walls, and I quickly started earning a lot from my hobby. At the beginning of my final year, things started to get real. The little money that I'd been using to survive through my art and odd jobs couldn't sustain me anymore. I needed money from my mother, but she avoided me everywhere. I had turned 21, but my mom found a loophole in the will and worked with a lawyer to restrict access to my dad's money until I was 25 due to immature behavior. I knew that there'd be no money or company remaining by that time, and I had to do something immediately. I just didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, Tima sent me the address of a gallery that was set to open soon. It was close to my school, and she encouraged me to take some of my work there. I kept going, but the owner was never around to vet my pieces. One day, I went back to check and ran into Princeton. It turned out that he was the owner of the gallery, so I got the best spots for their opening night, and a lot of my pieces were purchased for 100 times their usual prices. After reconnecting with Princeton, he apologized for ghosting me, and we started hanging out a lot while Tima kept teasing me. Princeton said he had something special to show me on the second opening night of the gallery, and Tima anticipated a proposal. I dressed up that night and headed to the gallery. Princeton took my hand and walked me to his office where we met a lady.
Yennefer, this is my wife, Miranda. Miranda, meet Yennefer, my girlfriend.
What the heck is this? I ran while Princeton chased after me. Apparently, he ran a polygamous marriage and wanted me to be his second wife. I started crying uncontrollably and ran back to Tima, who consoled me as usual. After that painful heartbreak, I decided to focus on helping my dad's company thrive and saving his wealth. I asked Tima, who had coincidentally become my permanent roommate, for advice.
Well, your dad did say biological mother in his will.
Yeah, that was strange.
God, how do I tell you this? Mrs. Reeds is not your biological mother.
What?
It's complicated. Your mother, Mrs. Reeds, couldn't have a child, so she hired a poor woman to have a child for her. She never met this woman, but your father did before paying her off and forcing her to sign a contract of non-disclosure.
Who is this woman? And how do you know this?
You see, the thing is, this woman couldn't bear being that far away from her daughter, so she convinced your father to hire her as a nanny.
You're my biological mother?
Yes.
Is Mr. Reeds my biological father?
Yes.
It took me a short while to get over the hurt and forgive Tima because I loved her so much. Armed with this new revelation, I rescued my dad's company and money and changed my and Tima's life for the best.
Where am I? Suddenly, memories flooded my thoughts. The party, the girls, the accident.
Johnny,
Mom hugged me.
you're finally awake.
She sighed.
Francine, let him breathe.
Dad's jovial voice filled the room.
I must say, he does look better with those bandages.
Hillary, my sister who was 2 years older than me, smirked before she gave me a hug. An older lady in a white coat walked into the room.
Hi, John. I'm Dr. Patricia Reyes.
What she told me next totally changed my life. Keep watching if you want to see how my crazy story turns out. What? What do you mean you had to remove my leg? I felt nauseated. But school, baseball, hockey, my scholarship. I buried my head in my hands and cried. Hillary held me in her arms while Mom and Dad moved outside the room to chat with Dr. Reyes.
It'll be okay, Johnny.
Later, I got discharged and was able to go home. At home, things were financially and emotionally strained. One evening, I overheard my parents discussing the bills and that they needed a miracle. I needed a way to help my parents, but what was I to do? I sat in my bedroom. I heard a knock on the door. Hillary walked in with a pair of crutches and handed them to me.
Allison's brother Todd said you could have these. This helped him out a lot after his football accident.
Thanks, Hill. She kissed me on the forehead before she left. Another 2 weeks passed before Mom and Dad agreed it was time for me to head back to school. There was a knock on the front door.
I see you're looking good as ever.
Brendan, my best friend, greeted me with a bear hug. I chuckled. We'd better get going. I don't want to be late for the first day back at school. Over the next few weeks, I began to feel more like myself. One afternoon, Brendan busted into my room with his phone in his hand.
Hey, Johnny, take a look at this.
Brendan handed me his phone. ProTech Company is ready to give back. Win one of our prosthetic legs today. It went on to say in order to win, the family or friends of the individual must create a video stating why they're deserving of the leg. The cost of each leg was $30,000, and there were 3 legs to be won.
What's going on here?
Hillary peeked into my bedroom.
I, the best friend, found the ultimate solution for Johnny.
I handed Hillary the phone, who skimmed over the article.
This sounds way too good to be true. Let me do a quick search on Mr. Chang.
Hillary went on to tell us that Mr. Chang, the CEO and founder, recently won the lottery, which helped him get his company on track after struggling for the past 2 years. Mr. Chang's father lost his leg in a car accident when Mr. Chang was just a little boy. It was hard for his family because his dad was the breadwinner, and during that time, prosthetics weren't an option.
So does this mean we can go ahead and shoot the video?
I don't see why not.
During dinner, Hillary and I pitched the video to our parents, who agreed to help out. Over the next few days, my family, Brendan, and even some of the kids and teachers at school put together a video, and Brendan submitted it. Approximately 3 months later, we received a congratulatory letter from ProTech. I couldn't believe it. I won. We got a date and a time to go into ProTech to meet with Mr. Chang for a fitting of the leg. Once the fitting of the leg was completed, I thought about how much my life was going to change with the help of the prosthetic leg. What I didn't count on was the rivalry and betrayal that came with it. About 6 months later, Brendan, Hillary, and I were hanging out at home in Hillary's room, while Mom and Dad were downstairs when the news report came on.
Tonight, local authorities found CEO and founder of ProTech, Mr. Chang, dead at his office. Rumor has it that Mr. Chang was doing some shady business with this international gang, D Chatty, but the police didn't deny or confirm our suspicions.
I switched off the television.
I've heard the name of that gang before.
Hillary picked up her phone and searched the internet.
D Chatty Gang is infamous for jewelry heists and selling gold and other precious metals to the highest bidder. There is also a rumor that he stole some jewelry from Chatty and hid them in his prosthetic limbs.
Hillary gasped.
Johnny, do you think?
I removed my leg and Hillary opened it slowly using scissors. Hillary turned the leg upside down and something caught her eye. She took the scissors and pried the sole of the leg off, and sure enough, there we found diamonds attached to a black cloth.
Wow!
Brendan took the cloth from Hillary as she reattached the sole to the leg before she returned it to me. We need to find a place to hide that. I attached the leg to my stump. Suddenly, shouts from downstairs caught our attention. Hillary and I darted downstairs. In the kitchen stood 4 men. 2 of them were tying our parents to the kitchen chairs. One of the men walked towards us with a devilish smile.
We're looking for the person in the house with the fake leg. Leave my children alone!
Dad struggled against his ropes. One of the men slammed a baton into Dad's leg. Dad howled in pain, and the man laughed.
Well, that isn't the prosthetic leg. Shall I try the other one?
No, I screamed. Dad pleaded.
Johnny, no!
I'm the one you want. One of the men grabbed Hillary and tied her to the chair while I was ordered to remove my leg. My hands trembled as I did as they asked. As soon as I handed over the leg, I was tied up next to the rest of my family. My family looked on as the men took the leg apart and searched it. When they didn't find anything, I watched as they shattered the leg against the wall, then dropped the remaining fragments onto the floor. Over the next 15 minutes, the men trashed the house and stole whatever their hands could carry before exiting. Hillary was able to loosen her ropes and she untied everyone. Immediately, Mom called the police and Hillary called an ambulance for Dad. First to arrive was the police, and shortly after, the ambulance. The police questioned Hillary and I, then followed Mom and Dad to the hospital to question them there.
I'm so sorry about your leg, John.
Hillary squeezed my hand. It's okay. With the diamonds, I can get another one.
I wonder where Brendan ran off to. He can't be in the house or the men would have caught him. I'll take a look outside.
Hillary disappeared through the front door. She returned 15 minutes later.
Brendan is nowhere to be seen. You don't think he ran away with the diamonds, do you?
He'd never do something like that. Or so I thought. That week, Brendan wasn't at school, nor was he answering any of our phone calls. Hillary also passed by his home since he lived just down the street. But his mom, Mrs. Pinder, said he was too busy with homework to come and chat with her.
I can't believe Brendan would betray us like that.
Hillary hissed angrily as she sat on my bed. I'm finding it hard to believe that myself.
Let's break in.
My eyes widened. What?
You heard me. Let's break in.
Even though I wasn't thrilled about the idea, I realized we didn't have a choice. Later that night, I watched as Hillary adjusted a mic and camera onto her clothes. She ensured that everything was streamed to my laptop.
Okay, I'll see you in a bit.
She grabbed the torchlight from my desk. Please be safe, Hill. She kissed me on my forehead, smiled, and left my room without a word. I sat there nervously as I watched Hillary move closer to Brendan's house. She went to the back of the house and jimmied a window open before she slid inside the house. Once inside, she quickly made her way to Brendan's bedroom.
He's not here, Johnny.
Suddenly, Brendan's bedroom light flickered on and Hillary came face to face with Mrs. Pinder.
What are you doing in Brendan's bedroom? I was worried about Brendan. He and Johnny are inseparable. I'm so sorry.
Hillary broke down into tears, which made Mrs. Pinder cry as well. Through the tears, Mrs. Pinder revealed that she and her husband had received a text message from Brendan saying that he needed some time for himself. She said they contacted the police, but the police told them there was nothing they could do since he was of age. Hillary thanked Mrs. Pinder and left the house. That snake! I slammed my fist against my desk angrily. After Hillary got home, I told her I had a plan. I told her not to worry about it as we said goodnight to each other. I made contact with one of the members of the D Chatty gang. I told them that I wanted to cut a deal. I know who took the diamonds. In return, I'd like my sister's tuition, my parents' mortgage, and hospital bills paid in full. The person on the other end told me to send Brendan's picture, and if they didn't find the diamonds on him, they'd come for me. The line went dead. About a week later, Mrs. Pinder informed us that Brendan was found, but he was in the hospital. His face was swollen where he was unrecognizable. The doctors weren't sure if he was going to pull through. One afternoon, I came home and saw a brown paper package on the doorstep addressed to my parents. I gave it to Dad, who opened it. There was a little note.
We've seen how hard you've worked to provide for your family, and we just wanted to give you a small gift.
In the box were receipts from the hospital, bank, and college, stamped and paid in full. Mom and Dad were so excited that they didn't notice the look Hillary and I exchanged. 2 years passed and Hillary and I never spoke about the package or its contents. Within those 2 years, Brendan and his family moved away, and I got a new leg. While on our family vacation, Hillary and I were sitting relaxing at a resort poolside, having drinks, while our parents were having dinner. Suddenly, my eyes widened. Isn't that Brendan? Hillary spun around, but by that time, he was already gone. Hillary turned to me.
Do you really think it was him?
It wasn't long before Brendan showed up and gave a drink to another vacationer. Look, there he is again.
I'm going over.
I gulped the last of my drink and followed her.
Hi.
Brendan smiled politely.
Good evening, ma'am. How may I help you?
Brendan, it's Hillary.
He stared at her blindly.
Can I get you something to drink?
I grabbed her arm. Come on, Hill, it's time to go. I pulled her away gently until we were out of earshot. Something is wrong here. Why doesn't he remember us? Hillary leaned in.
Do you think it was anything to do with what happened 2 years ago?
I shrugged. Maybe.
I think we should investigate.
No, I think we should just leave it alone and go back to our rooms. Hillary had a determined look on her face. She sank into one of the pool chairs. I sighed heavily and sat next to her and waited. About an hour later, we heard the supervisor wish Brendan a good night.
Here's our chance to follow him.
Hillary whispered eagerly. Reluctantly, I followed Hillary. We followed Brendan to the elevators where he got in.
Okay, I'll follow him through the stairs, and you tell me which floor he came out on, okay?
I pulled out my phone to call Hillary as she darted towards the staircase. I watched as the elevator went to the underground parking lot, and I told Hillary.
I see him. He's going through a red door. Hurry up and get down here. I don't want to lose him.
Hillary hung up. I entered the elevator quickly and met Hillary in the parking lot.
Okay, he went through that door. Let's go.
We ensured the coast was clear before we opened the door and slipped inside. Before us was a long, brightly lit white corridor with numbered doors on either side. At the end of the corridor was a large double door with the exit sign over it. We were almost to the double doors when we heard voices. Immediately, we slipped into one of the rooms. In the room was a bed and a closet. On the bed was Brendan, who looked like he was asleep. We heard voices outside the door and hid in the closet with the door slightly ajar. We held our breath as a man and a woman entered the room. They went to Brendan's bedside and injected something into the back of his neck before they left the room. As soon as we thought the coast was clear, Hillary and I ran out of there, and we didn't stop until we were safe outside our hotel room. We need to find Mom and Dad and get out of here. I pushed open the door to the hotel room. As soon as we entered, two men overpowered us, and we were both knocked unconscious. I rubbed the back of my neck and opened my eyes. How did I get back home? I ran through the house looking for my family. No one was there. My eyes glanced at the walls. All of our family portraits were gone. The only portraits up were of me. I entered the kitchen, and on the table was a brown paper package. I opened it slowly. There were pictures of my family smiling, and stamped on the other side was "Paid in full." I pulled out a note that was in the box. It was from the leader of the D Chatty gang. It said that my family was now under their care, and I was spared because I gave them the information to find Brendan. The problem was, by the time they found him, he had already sold half the diamonds, so the gang needed to be compensated for the other half. To this day, I'm still searching for my family. All records of them have been removed from the system. It's as though they never existed. Police have tried to tell me they never existed, but I know that I'll see them again one day. I just have to keep hope alive.